Today is Monday, October 20th. We start with the invocation by Pastor Bruce Witten, Central United Methodist Church.
Thank you. Let's pray together. God, thanks for the opportunity we have to work together for the peace and prosperity and the proper working of your people. Thank you for the men and women in leadership in this wonderful city. And we would ask, God, that you'd continue to give them wisdom and discernment as they seek to bring about peace and prosperity, as they seek to do and make decisions that will aid the health and well-being of the city, of its people, for the present time and for the future. And so, God, we'd ask for godly wisdom for them. We thank you for this city, and we'd ask that you'd continue to help it to be a great city for your glory and honor. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. We continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Here. Here. Moore. Here. Vincent. Yes. Versteg. Here. Walling.
Here.
Yates.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. Moving over to section 4 of the agenda, this is the opportunity for community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community, whether or not they are included on the current agenda. The community is encouraged to come and speak before the mayor and city council. We do ask to keep statements brief, and we define that as no more than 3 minutes. Any questions that are to be asked to the city staff, the council members, or the mayor, we ask that those be asked prior to speaking to the full council, so that way perhaps we can answer those concerns without getting the whole council involved. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. Is there anyone who would care to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Item 5, this is the consent agenda. These are all items that are routine in nature and typically get a unanimous approval from the council. I would draw your attention to items number H, which is a resolution scheduling a public hearing on the vacation and sale of an alley at 1002 North 2nd Street. Also, item I, considering a resolution setting a date for a public hearing having to do with zoning and accessory building standards that people build on their own property. J is a resolution setting a date for a public hearing to consider a proposed ordinance amending the city's gas and electric franchise agreement with Mid-American Energy. And item K, where we have a resolution transferring the ownership of a 1988 Chevy truck owned by the city of Oskaloosa, and I think we're gifting that to the Mahaska County Solid Waste Management Commission. Do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Okay, any discussion regarding it?
Item G, I'd just like some clarification of how that works, but I would like item J pulled, vote on it separately.
Okay. Item G, that has to do with a resolution authorizing an internal advance to the tax increment revenue fund.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and talk it through.
Why, just help me understand it. I mean, it's like we're going to get paid back, but we have to have this motion to get money now, and I just want to understand it.
In order for us to use TIF money to help pay that back, we have to certify it kind of as a debt. So this internal fund is making it seem like a debt. So we have to do that first before we can get the TIF money to pay back the general
It's
fund.
just all fair. Thanks, Amy.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, so I'll call for the question on all of the items except item J. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Van Zetten? Yes. Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Caligari?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore? Yes.
Okay. Item J, in its full explanation, this is to consider a resolution setting a date for a public hearing to consider a proposed ordinance amending the city's gas and electric franchise agreement with Mid-American Energy. It increases the existing gas and electric franchise fees by an additional 2% of the company's gross revenues for all service classes, and amending the city's revenue purpose statement for use of the franchise fee revenues. So there's a lot happening, but this is just scheduling the hearing. Any additional comments? Nope.
No, I just wanted it read for the public.
Okay.
Is it just the gas and not the liquor?
It's both.
Both. Okay.
Make sure.
Roll call, please.
Kirsty?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore? Yes. Van Zetten?
No.
Okay, that passes. Okay, next is the regular agenda. Part 6, item A. First thing is a public hearing. This is to consider a resolution levying a special assessment against private property for cutting and removal of weeds by the city of Oskaloosa in accordance with Title 8, Chapter 8.20 of the City Code. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone who would care to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. It does note in here that certified notices were sent to all the property owners, and notice was published in the Oskaloosa Herald. So if approved, the property owner has 30 days to pay for weed cutting in the city clerk's office. Do we have a motion for approval levying the special assessment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery? Yes. Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore? Yes. Van Zetten? Yes. Versteg?
Okay, that passes. Item B, this is a presentation and discussion of economic development by Andrew Jensen, Director of the Mahaska Community Development Corporation. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council, I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you today the State of the Local Economy Report. I hope that you have had a chance to read the report that was provided to you. For anybody, it is available online, and I can give that to you. And I also have hard copies with me, so if there is interest, please let me know. I'm going to start out with just a little bit of background. Hopefully this won't take too much of your time. Okay. Did you have the presentation slides? Okay. That's all right. I will start out with a little bit of the background. When I started as director of Mahaska Community Development Group, thank you. At the beginning of the year, many questions were, okay, what's the big thing that we're going to do? And I've said from the beginning that it's important to make sure that our decisions are contextualized to what's really going on here in Mahaska County. And for the past several months, we've been doing a lot of things. One thing has been meeting with business owners and leaders from across the county to figure out what those issues are. There was also a need for quantitative data to really back up what we're seeing in those discussions. And so that was one of the reasons for this report. Additionally, we have been going through a strategic planning process with Mahaska Development Partners, or what we're calling the Mahaska Development Partners. That includes MCDG, the Oskaloosa Area Chamber, Main Street, Oskaloosa, MCARD, Mahaska County Agriculture and Rural Development. The city and the county have also been involved there as well. And so we reached a point with that strategic planning where we needed some hard data to be able to make some priorities and set some priorities, and we'll be sharing those at the end of the presentation today. And lastly, one of my overall goals, I am a big fan of data-driven decision-making, and so I am making these presentations to you, met with the county supervisors this morning, and we'll be continuing to go around the county just to provide this data. This is just information for you. If there are things here that I can dig into further, each one of these charts that you'll see could be 50-page report. Of course, everybody doesn't want to read that, but if there's something that we want to dig into further, by all means ask. We'll see what we can do. I guess that's just a little bit of a background. We'll jump into it. Please do stop me at any point along the way if there's something that's of particular interest. The first one is just the population in Mahaska County. All of this information, well, most of this information is organized by the county because we're trying to cover the entire thing. Specifically for the city of Oskaloosa, well, you can see this is the population over the past 100 years. Mahaska County population actually peaked well before then with coal mining. There was a steady decrease since then, as well as farm consolidation drove a lot of the population loss. One interesting fact I'd say just for Oskaloosa in particular is that 100 years ago, Oskaloosa accounted for approximately 1/3 of the population in the county. Today, it's over half the county's population. And the county as a whole population has maintained relatively steady since 1970. Oskaloosa, according to the 2010 census, is the largest population-wise that it has ever been. Just some interesting facts there. This one, for those of us who really like to crunch demographic numbers, which there's not many of us, but this is particularly interesting to me. This shows the 2010 census and 2000 and 2010 census. And each one of these bars represents a 5-year or a 5-year age cohort. So 5 years and under, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and so forth. One thing that you can see quite readily here is the baby boom generation. As you can see, 10 years later, this 3-year, three bands here jumps 10 years. And one thing that we'll discuss repeatedly is workforce issues, and this is even heightened here in Mahaska County. As you can see, every 10 years, this bar will jump 2 spots. Here again, in 2 more spots, this big section, which is a big portion of our workforce, is all in retirement age. And you will see why, particularly as our local employers discuss the difficulty in finding workers. This is going to become a more heightened issue as we go forward. Thus, one of our needs to really focus on retaining and attracting high-quality employees. The other note that I would just make, and it's hard to tell exactly here, but we have in this age group, this is 15 to 19 years old. Across the state, we see that as that group moves forward, they move out of rural areas, and that's because they go to college, they move on to the big city, they leave home. One thing that successful rural communities really do is recruit those people back. It's a reality that there's a large percentage that leave, and one thing that Mahaska County is not doing particularly well at is recruiting those people back, people that have families, that have an education, that have a career and qualifications. We need to do a better job of specifically targeting those people because particularly in that instance, we're not doing as well against some of our peer communities. So those are, again, just some observations.
Jump on that?
Yep,
Because,
absolutely.
It looks like in 2000, we actually were doing a good job of recruiting those people back. In 2010, we weren't.
Well, so this doesn't show change, so there's still.
So that's not a change up, that's not.
So this, yes, there's a lot of people here, but this was actually the tail end of the baby boom here. And so, actually, to be able to see that change, you actually have to look at 2 charts next to each other. You can see what I'm saying. So it would have been, so say, age 20 to 24 here. What we would like to see is a big jump in this bar right here. And we're seeing some growth, but not what we really need to be seeing. Make sense? All right. Yeah, please do stop me. Educational attainment, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Less than high school graduate, we have about the same proportion as the state as a whole. We have fewer bachelor's and graduate degrees than the state does as a whole. And those are, and you can see that accounted for in high school graduates. So we have the same overall, people who have graduated high school, same proportion as the state as a whole. But when you get to that advanced education, we fall behind the state. And that's reflects a lot of the manufacturing jobs that we have in the area. People can be successful in this area without having a lot of advanced degrees. At the same time, it will limit our ability to really attract knowledge economy employers and such. One of the things that I've thought it important to do is address some of the, I think, misconceptions that I've heard anyway, just in normal conversation. One thing that I've heard, and I don't know how widespread this perception is that we here in rural Iowa are somewhat detached from kind of the broader economy. We don't, how much is what happens here in Mahaska County is affected by what happens in New York or London and the like. And I think some of these graphs are going to show it quite apparently, in particular when we talk about the worldwide the global recession of a few years ago. And here you can see the unemployment rate during that recession, it jumped. You can see that easily. I would also say one of the misconceptions is that we're just not doing very well here in Mahaska County. And I would also say that, of course, we have plenty of room to grow, but we've actually done fairly well. Although we're very much affected by what happens around the world and broader economy, we did perform relatively well to the rest of the state and to the rest of the nation. Right now, our unemployment rate, last figure, actually this isn't the newest, but what you see on the chart is we're at about 4.1%, which is well below the state and national averages, so that's a good thing. This one thing that echoes what's happening across the country is unfortunately that some of the reason why that unemployment rate has fallen is because people are leaving the labor market. And again, for our employers here, that's a difficulty in attracting and retaining employees. And you can see that with the blue line trending downward. Again here, this shows total employment and number of establishments. Establishment being a business and organization who hires people. And you can see that establishments kind of lag behind employment. So you can look in 2007 when everything was good, there was a lot of employment. Things started to tank, people started to get laid off. Then you lay off employees before you have to close your own doors. And that's why we saw the total number of businesses that hit its lowest point in 2011. But since then, employment has risen almost all the way back to where peak employment was in 2007. We don't have the 2014 numbers for establishments yet, but we can expect to see that to continue to increase. This, in particular, I think this is where it gets particularly interesting, although it's a little bit hard to read because there are so many lines. This shows the total employment by different sectors in the economy. And I would just, a few things to note are the biggest losers during the recession were manufacturing, wholesale trade, and construction. And then since the recession, the biggest gainers have been manufacturing, which you can see along the top, which has been one of the biggest contributors to employment gain in the county. Healthcare and social services increased quite a bit. And kind of tucked in here, our private educational services have actually done quite well. I think of William Penn University and our private schools. We'll do a quick comparison on the next slide. I just want to note where retail employment is. It's one of our largest employment sectors in our local economy. And the next slide will kind of emphasize that those jobs we all know tend to be lower paying jobs. I'll just point out here, this is the earnings by each one of those sectors, and where retail was near the top on total jobs, its earnings have been flat toward the middle. So that kind of will show you a little bit on how that plays out. Again, biggest losers during the recession, same people: manufacturing, wholesale trade, and construction. Biggest gainers since the recession, construction and manufacturing. And again, you can see that jump here since 2009. The earnings increase in manufacturing has driven a lot of the local economic gains. Right through the middle, which I think is one of the more interesting ones, is farm earnings. And that's driven so much by commodity prices, corn prices. We know in recent years, 2011, 2012, we have had great commodity prices. Farms have done very well. This year, we would expect that to drop quite a ways. So again, just some observations. We're going to jump into some of the individual sectors next. I don't have a specific slide on manufacturing, but I guess I just wanted to emphasize the performance in the manufacturing sector, particularly for Mahaska County, has not only outperformed the nation, but it's outperformed the state and all of our peer counties. It's been, if you dig down into the numbers, it's been quite remarkable as far as job gains and earning gains, particularly in the past 5 years since the recession. So that's just one note that I'd make. Additionally, we know that here locally, again, to emphasize how tied to the world economy we are, we as a county are exporting to all 50 states in over 50 countries around the world. So I think that speaks very well for us. Here's specifically Oskaloosa specific. You know, we don't have a whole lot of farmland in the city, but certainly a big part of our county economy. And you can see this goes back to 1992. It's the Census of Agriculture, so it's bigger periods of time. But as commodity prices have risen, we've seen big rise in farm income. We've seen continual moderate consolidation in the farming industry. So there are fewer farms. There's about 10% fewer farms today than there were in 1992. And actually going back a little bit to the total population graph that I showed earlier, that really reflects kind of the consolidation in the farm industry. There's about 60% fewer farms, total number of farms in the county, than there were 60 years ago, and that's mechanization, industrialization. We know that's happening across the country. But our farm economy has been strong in recent years. Corn prices today, that line is not going to be continuing to go up right now, but in recent years it's been very good. Yeah.
Farm income since 2002 relate to the previous chart where it shows it spiking.
Yeah, to this chart here?
Yeah.
This chart, I'm sorry, it slid off the page a little bit. So, okay, so this one is, first there's two different data sources. This one here is the USDA Census of Agriculture, and that's a 5-year survey every 5 years.
Okay.
And that would really probably be the more accurate. It's a very detailed survey. And the chart before this one is the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, and that's a yearly estimate.
Okay.
So overall, you know, it's trended up, although we know within those 5-year periods there's ups and downs throughout that whole thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Haskell County retail sales. This trend is not nearly as desirable as say the last trend line. The county as a whole, well, let me back up. Oskaloosa, the city of Oskaloosa accounts for over 90% of the retail sales in the county. So when you're looking at the retail sales number here from Haskell County, that's largely Oskaloosa as well. We know that we continue to be a draw. More people come into the county, more people come from outside the region to spend retail shopping here than do people leave Mahaska County and spend their money elsewhere. So that's a good thing. And we continue to draw people in despite this trend line in declining retail sales. So again, we can see the economic recession, big drop there. Looked like an attempted recovery in 2011, 2012, but continued to backslide. And that's a troubling number for us. We want to make sure that we really are trying to recruit new retailers, and specifically for a few reasons. One is just jobs and employment. That's a good thing. Of course, we have a local option sales tax, and that's tax revenue. And I'd say thirdly, and perhaps even most importantly, when it comes to being able to recruit high talent people, shopping amenities in the area is something that has turned people off. That's a big need. And so we need to put some considerable focus on making sure that we build up our retail sector.
Can I hold it up on
Yep.
that as well? Because I also see a trend inside of Amazon and how online has killed so many people. So if you look at nationally as well, have you looked at that just to kind of compare those numbers? Because now we're able to get goods and services really within 2 days. And as we saw back with demographics, as people like us get older, it's easier for me just to hit Amazon. And
I completely agree with you. And it's hard to dive into those numbers. And I have my theories on what happened when you see an attempted recovery and then decline again. Here's Andrew Jensen without any real solid knowledge behind it. But there's a decrease, and we know that Amazon and all online retailers have just exploded. I can imagine. My theory is that local retailers attempted to get back into the market after, as they saw just general growth happening, realized that they couldn't compete with the Amazons and the like, and that's why we see a continued decline. Again, that's just my theory, but yeah, I don't think, actually, when it comes to retail sales, we peaked in terms of real dollars, I can't remember, but it was a couple of decades ago, and particularly when it comes to online shopping and now our access to Des Moines. We're never going to have that. I don't think we're going to have that level of impact, but we can certainly improve. And I think that's one thing that we need to do. Oskaloosa housing. And we include housing. It's not really a industrial sector, but it's a big part of certainly the national economy, though housing construction here in Oskaloosa is not the big issue that it is nationally. I include this in particular because our local employers have emphasized time and again to me the need for quality housing for their employees, and it's something that we really need to get a handle on. We had Jim Thompson from Iowa Economic Development Authority, works with the Main Street organization, came in and he emphasized this quite forcefully to us that we need to get a handle on getting good quality homes and increasing the average value of our homes if we're going to really be able to compete in the future. And of course, this goes to being able to recruit people, but it also goes to property tax revenue, which of course supports our schools and our local government. And you can see here in this chart, the orange trend line is the state of Iowa, and the blue is Oskaloosa. And that doesn't tell a good story. We can go a lot deeper into this, but I guess I just show this particularly to emphasize the need to get into some of the housing issues. And that's really up and down the spectrum from high-end homes down to our rental units and making sure that people have entry homes to buy. I know personally moving into the community, there's not a lot of options as far as a rental home for a family. There's a lot of things that we need to address here. This is really the last chart that I had for my state of the local economy, so that's all the data that I'm going to give you. We're going to move on for just a couple of quick slides. We use this data and developed some, doing our strategic planning work. I know that you as a council did strategic planning work this summer as well, but we're going to move into that. We use this data to kind of craft some of that. So again, let me know if you have questions. Just 2 slides. I'm going to read this. This is our vision statement. In 5 years, transform the Mahaska area into a community where residents, businesses, and investors see continual opportunity for growth and development. And one of the things we realize that in 5 years, we're not going to become a booming metropolis, but I think in 5 years, we can become an area where people really see things happening, and I think there's plenty of positives in our community already. But to really get that, for people to understand that Oskaloosa is a place where they can grow and prosper. They need to see investment happening already. They need to see people being successful here, and that's what we really want to see. We say we accomplish that through 4 goals, and that's increasing the quantity of high-quality jobs, increasing capital and personal investment, increase the quality of life for all residents, and increasing the competitiveness of local businesses in their markets, whether local, national, and global. When it comes to these goals, I would say, we grow jobs in America in the private sector, and that's really where that's going to happen. But I would emphasize to you as the council, the city government, that you can make a big impact when it comes to investment and quality of life. Businesses are going to invest here when they see their local government investing and making it a better place to be, when they see the city government stepping up and helping out, whether it's, in whatever capacity, being a player in recreation and other quality of life opportunities that we have. And of course, those infrastructure investments help with our our local and global competitiveness when people can actually get their goods to market on good roads and streets and the like. Within that, we then developed or created development priorities. And these are the things that we'll be working on. We went through a strategic planning session where we've started down the course of an action plan, but these are the specific priorities that we're going to have. I've been emphasizing again and again, workforce development and recruitment. It's going to be very important. Northwest Oskaloosa development with the airport, the bypass, Lacey Recreation Complex. There's a lot of opportunity there. We need to make sure that we get our arms around it and capture that development and market that as a real developable area. Economic diversification, I mentioned retail. That's something that we need to grow in. We also have a need in professional services. There's opportunity to provide, accounting, consulting, engineering services to our area businesses. and we want to make sure that that's happening. We have a lot of many local large businesses that are planning good expansion projects. We're going to continue to foster those developments. Housing, I mentioned, physical improvements to downtown buildings. That's the core, that's the identity of a community. We want to make sure that that's strong and stays vibrant for a long time. Continue to, we want to do more tourism development, bring people in, have them spend their money here. And lastly, policy and regulation, and that's just to ensure that there is a good business climate and be able to relate those policy things to this city council and to other bodies to make sure that we have a strong business climate here. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Take any questions if you have any.
Going back to the housing real quick.
You bet.
Median average home values here, we've got roughly 85,000 to about 115,000. I've got a graph here that says home values, that one says Oskaloosa housing. I don't know if they're the same.
Oh, in the report?
Yeah, it's under the report.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that one is not, that is not reflected in this presentation. That was
Okay.
not included. So that's a little bit different.
What is this one?
Okay, that one is, here, let me.
Housing needs assessment.
It's from the housing needs assessment. Actually, all of this information on housing, it comes from the Oskaloosa housing needs assessment. Where it comes from.
Just one broad question there. Do you know the average age of those homes that they, and
I have to look I don't know it offhand. I know we do have, on average, we do have older housing stock here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do list our, all the data sources. Of course, those are in the report as well. I have copies of the presentation, copies of the report, as well as the vision, priorities, and goals, if anybody would like a copy. But with that, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for, probably went longer than I intended, but thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Excuse me.
Moving on in the agenda, item C is the consideration of a site plan to build a dog park, and it would be located within Edmondson Park. R.D. Keep has submitted a site plan for a new dog park located south of the public pool in Edmondson Park. The site in consideration is 1.48 acres in area. Present zoning of these properties, single-family residential, which would be R1. The proposed dog park will be divided into two sections for large and small dogs. There's existing vehicular parking space north and west of the proposed dog park, and the site plan indicates 4-foot-tall chain link fences. Planning and Zoning Commission considered this item at their October 13, 2014 regular meeting, tabled it until a special meeting on October 15, 2014, requesting a more detailed site plan with ADA was Americans with Disabilities Act, entrances shown on the plan. At the October 15, 2014 special meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended by a vote of 6-0, that is 6 yes, 0 no, with Keep abstaining, that the City Council approve the site plan with the following stipulations. First, provide 5 directional signs, that would be 4 entrances and 1 interior, to the dog park, showing where it is. Provide 2 directional signs to the restrooms from the dog park. Provide 2 benches for each section of the park, so there's a total of 4 benches there throughout. Provide 2 dog waste stations for each section of the park, so there's a total of 4 waste stations. And finally, provide ADA accessibility to the dog park with ADA signage. The applicant, RD, is requesting to waive the water fountains, restrooms, and a $100 application fee. The applicant is requesting to postpone the ADA accessibility requirements until July 2015 to secure more funding for the construction costs. The applicant is also requesting that the city provide the labor to relocate the main park and gate entrance chain closure that's on South F Street. So do we have a motion for approval on the site plan?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
So what's the bottom line of what this is gonna cost us? That's really what I want to know. What are we chipping in exactly? What do we think it's gonna cost the city, and in future, what's it gonna cost us?
RD, would you be willing to take the podium? Oh my God. My understanding of the agreement is that you and your group would be paying for all of the materials that will go into the construction of the dog park, but you would ask city staff to actually put the fencing in. Is that correct?
No, we are working with a contractor to do the fencing. The only thing right now that we foresee having the city staff do will be to move the chain link from the entrance at South F to a spot just west of the entrance into the parking lot. Our group also plans to, in our fundraising efforts, our mantra all along has been to have at least a $5,000 maintenance fund to start with, so that we can, we've kind of looked at some estimates as to what other parks cost to operate, and those have run anywhere from about $1,500 a year upwards. A lot of it depends. One of the things that I worked with city staff with was trying to figure out that area needs to be mowed and we'll have some snow removal, and trying to figure out what those costs are. From that standpoint, Jason, I can't put a figure on that.
Well, you're going to mow it anyway, whether the dog park's there or not. It just sounds like to me you're asking for minimal city labor to do some stuff. Is that right?
That, in talking with Akilish, we haven't seen any, other than just moving that. We're not anticipating that we need staff to do anything else except make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row as we build the ADA and put in the signs and those types of things. But yeah, very, very minimal city input.
But we are going to have to kick in if you can't meet your minimums to maintain this, right?
Well, yeah, in the long run, the city will end up owning the park. Our hope is that we can, and part of what my group wants to do is do annual fundraisers that will go into a maintenance fund to continue to support that.
I've been to a couple of these. A lot of times they'll charge you $5 or $6 on a pass. Have you considered doing that at all?
We took a look at that. The question was who was going to manage that, and then how do who is going to be responsible for being at the park to check to see if they've paid the fee, and
It's an honor system. Even there, it's an honor system.
so. But those are certainly things that could be, but we did not go that direction in our ultimate final plan.
But you are going to have continuous fundraisers to try to keep up the maintenance fund
Yes.
from now on, okay?
Is there going to be kind of like a board of you guys that stick together? That I know Rebecca Sells was in here. I don't know if there's any correlation between you two.
Yeah, she's
to kind of keep that whole thing going.
I've had to rely on people who have dogs. I haven't owned a pet in over 40 years. So I've had to rely on people who have used parks and will continue to use parks, a dog park. So I've kind of relied on them to give me guidance as to, okay, what do we need? How does this all lay out? So yeah, our plan is that we will have people who can help advise of what's going on out there. If we start to see something in disrepair, or do we need to add something, that group will, okay, now we need to do some fundraising and get that done. But as to a formal board, I'm not sure that I would want to absolutely say for sure that there's going to be a formal board to do that.
I'm just trying to figure out who's going to stay on top of raising the money if there's no formal board. I mean, let's just say you move out of town. This thing becomes our responsibility, and maybe it's not a huge cost, maybe it is. I don't expect it to be, but that falls back on us.
True. And I don't have a solid answer about how that, how a board, because we don't, we're not a board, we're a group of people who got together to put together a project, And, but we do, our goal really is when when the city takes over this, that they have some funds so that we can figure out what the cost will be, and then it'll eventually would probably have to be put into the city budget to figure out what that is. We're hoping that we can get 2, 3, 4 years down the road, so we have a decent idea of what those might be.
And one last question, it just came to me, probably a little ridiculous. Is it just for dogs?
Yes.
Somebody can't go out there and let their sheep run around, or?
Correct.
I've done this long enough that I know what's gonna happen. It's just for dogs?
Just for dogs.
Okay.
No cats, right?
No cats.
Now, Jason, why do you think that was a ridiculous question?
I know where it's going.
Chickens.
Artie, I got a
Yes.
couple things. The asphalt parking lot that's shown here, is that existing? Does that need to be built as part of this?
It's a,
It's existing and nothing's being done to improve it as part of this?
there will be, we will have to concrete, at least it's my understanding that we will have to concrete in the handicapped parking spaces. Is that correct?
Right.
But then I guess that leads to my next question. You're stating you wouldn't do that to start with? And can we even waive an ADA requirement?
Well,
Is that within our?
let me explain. My reasoning for asking for a delay is actually a delay up to 1 July of 2015. And our reasoning is this, to make sure that we can get fundraising done so we can pay for it, but also to be able to, in case we have, end up with a wet fall or an early winter, and then have a late winter and wet spring, that we are sure that we can get it built by 1 July. I just asked for that, I'm hoping that I can raise the rest of the money that we need in fairly short order, that we can do it yet this fall.
We're not waiving the requirement, we're just giving it 9 months to build it.
In Mayor and Council, there are other ways of meeting ADA requirements outside of pouring concrete. Sidewalks, you could have hard-packed surface. I mean, there are some temporary measures that could be done to at least get us there in a time.
But as long as it's done by July 1st, 2015, it would meet whatever we approved tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Unless he doesn't come up with the funding,
And
then it's on us.
what causes a little bit of problem with the ADA there is the topography of that land. We know on the northwest, we're gonna have to do some angle type things, but once we get the fencing in, and then we can begin to work with the topography and get that in. It was just simply, we plan to put it in. We just wanted to make sure that we had time taking into account some of the weather that we have here in Iowa.
And then my last question goes with waiving the fee. Probably a question for Michael. If I remember right, or help me remember what stance we've taken on waiving fees, because the one that seems to stick out to me was the school system wanted us to waive some type of fee for building their homes, and we said that just wasn't something we were going to do. We're going to stick with our fee schedule now. Is my memory correct on that?
That's correct, although I think Habitat, that example that you raised is correct. Yes. Hey.
Well, then if you have other examples where we have waived it, that would help me.
No,
because
I can't recall off the cuff whether or not there were others, but typically we do charge for the permit because there was staff time spent to review, to provide comment, et cetera.
Again, it's more of a consistency issue. I just want to be consistent if that's how we treated the school system, because they're certainly a key member of our community as well.
You're waiting on the funds to get all that ADA accessible and everything, correct?
Yeah, right now, we have enough money to do the fencing and probably some of the groundwork.
So what's the rush? Why don't we wait until we get all the money and then do this at once?
Because we are on a deadline to spend some of the grant money that was given to us by MCCF.
When's the deadline on that?
They were shooting for November 1st.
This year?
So are you saying you gotta get the fence up by November
No,
1st?
no. All we have to show is that we are moving forward with the project and spending down some of the money.
RD, number
Yes.
one, I'm for it. But remind me, is it wood chips? Are you gonna wood chip the whole 2 acres?
No, it's grass.
It just staying the way it is, so we're gonna mow that. And we aren't gonna blow snow out of there, you're only talking about the parking lot, right?
Correct.
Because that entrance, where we used to close it to the park in the winter, will be open. Yeah, okay, thank you.
How are we gonna parliamentary take this on from our standpoint? Is the waiver gonna be separate than the request?
Because what we
I think that's
what we
asked.
motioned
Yeah,
was not the waived items, I don't believe.
Right. So, and I'll go ahead and ask that from a parliamentary perspective, yes, that we have the 5 bullet points that were on there having to do with directional signs, benches, way stations, and ADA accessibility, ADA signage. And yeah, so I would ask the people that have made the motion to further clarify as to whether they would like to waive the water fountains, restrooms, and the application fee. The water fountains and restrooms, I guess, is a gray area. Is there an ADA requirement, or is it an ADA we wish?
In my opinion, it's a public facility. It needs to be in with the project.
Okay.
Well, how is that any different than any of these other parks that have baseball facilities that are a few acres that have restrooms inside the parks? I mean, it's not right there, but it's certainly within a few hundred yards. Couldn't we use those facilities, or don't those qualify or count?
I'm not necessarily saying that we have to provide facilities for restroom facilities. I'm saying the actual dog park itself should be accessible to people with disabilities.
So the ADA is separate from the water.
Yes.
Because as I read it, we're putting signs up so the dogs will be able to read the signs to find a bathroom.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Should be good there.
Park staff would really appreciate that.
That'll save the wastewater issue we dealt with too. So I made the motion, I would be willing to waive the water fountains and restrooms. I want to make sure that the ADA is in by July 1st of 2015. And my preference would be to leave the application fee in to be consistent with other requests we received.
Okay. Who did the second, Amy?
I did.
Okay. You go along with that?
Yes,
Tom?
sir.
Okay. Any further questions for RD?
What about the city labor to provide to locate? Is that all right too?
Moving the gate, South Ave?
Where's that?
That's just a
It's-
closure gate for going into the park.
Yes, I would be fine with that.
So everything except the $100 application.
Yeah, and again, I just want to note that we do have the ADA in place by July 1st, 2015. I think that's important.
RD, how much more cash do you gotta have to come up with right now?
Probably, I'm estimating 15,000.
You can raise that by 2015?
Mhm.
100%.
Should be able to.
What happens if you fall short?
I write a big check and my wife gets mad at me.
So you're putting a personal guarantee on this?
Yes.
I work with his wife, I wouldn't. Wow. That's one heck of a leap there, RD.
Okay, back on subject. Do we have any further comments or questions? Okay, thank you, RD. Roll call, please.
Yates?
Yes.
Callegeri?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore? Yes. Van Zetten?
Yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. We're getting ourselves a dog park. Thank you.
And RD, I
Yes.
agree that we didn't waive the fees for you, but Debbie and I have been wanting to donate anyway, so we can help there.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Moving on, item D. This is to consider an ordinance amending the Oskaloosa Municipal Code, Section 13.08.140, having to do with permit connection charges. That this is the year that the city of Oskaloosa completed sanitary sewer improvements under Highway 163 West. It's to a new lift station on Suffolk Road. The improvement was a result of a project partnership with the city and the Iowa Department of Transportation to extend the sanitary sewer services to the area. The Iowa DOT contributed $315,925 in the agreement. In the event future connections to this system occur within the identified service areas, a fee must be established to assist the ratepayers in recouping the funds that were outlaid to complete the improvements. This item establishes by city code proportionate connection fees for the project as follows within the two service areas. Area number 1 is the lift station force main, $708.94 per acre, recommended rounding to $700 per acre. And then area 2, that's a gravity sewer, $2,416.57 per acre, recommended rounding to $2,400 per acre. Therefore, parcels in the red shaded area that are on the map included with this item would have a recommended connection fee of $700 per acre. Parcels in the blue shaded areas would have a recommended connection fee of $700 plus $2,400, equal to $3,100 per acre. So do we have a motion supporting the ordinance change with this new permit connection charge?
So moved.
Second.
And a second, okay. Any further discussion? Any comments? You can see the map up on the screen if you're interested in seeing it on a larger scale. Except,
Mayor, I do actually have something I need to add. Pursuant to the agreement that we had with the property owner to acquire the lift station, the deed and the purchase agreement included one free hookup for him. So the description here talked about everybody within the service area paying. He would be the one exception. So I just need to make sure I tell you that.
Joe got a freebie. Good enough.
any further comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Caligari.
Yes.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Van Zetten.
Yes.
Versteeg.
Yes.
Walling.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Takes us to item E. Consider a motion directing the city manager to negotiate and execute necessary engineering service agreements with Garden & Associates for work associated with the wastewater facilities inspection report and notice of violation dated September 29, 2014. So, the City of Oskaloosa received a letter from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources that was dated September 29 of 2014 that the City of Oskaloosa is mandated to take steps to eliminate bypassing of the sanitary sewer system caused by excessive inflow and infiltration, which is referred to as I&I. The plan has to be submitted to the DNR by April 1st of 2015 with a goal of full implementation by January 1st of 2020. I&I is the invasion of stormwater into the sanitary sewer system from broken, cracked, or misaligned mains, leaking manholes, or manholes that have water flowing over their covers. Other sources of I&I include private, such as resident and business services that are cracked or broken, and stormwater connections from sump pits and roof drains that go into the sanitary sewers. I&I not only causes sewage backups in basement, but also results in a substantial increase in energy needs and rapidly advances the need for repair and maintenance due to the increased burden on our system. In addition, there's a reduction in sewer capacity, which shortens the life of the current treatment facility, all of which results in increased cost and financial burden on the citizens and businesses of Oskaloosa. This item directs the city manager to execute agreements with the Garden & Associates to assist the city with furnishing responses to the DNR requirements listed in the wastewater facilities inspection report and notice of violation that was dated September 29. In here, we also have a budget consideration that this item is not specifically included in the fiscal year 2015 City Council approved budget. The work associated with this item is a mandate from DNR and will require the city to amend its budget in calendar year 2015. A significant amount of funds will also be required to complete work associated with the DNR's mandate in future fiscal years. Garden & Associates is estimating their fees for services at $109,700 to initially address the issues that are raised by DNR. Proposed fees do not include other work that will be required with addressing I&I, including but not limited to the televising and cleaning of the city's sanitary sewer system, system flow metering and calibration, and design and inspection fees for specific projects etc. We have a motion supporting directing the city manager to negotiate and execute with Garden and Associates the agreement for this DNR letter.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Discussion?
How much negotiation you gonna have?
Well, I think what part of the negotiation will be how much work does the city do on its own versus how much we rely upon Garden Associates to do. So that's where I see more of the negotiation occurring. Not necessarily on their hourly rate, but certainly try. And just for the public and those in attendance, this was a study session item that was talked about extensively prior to this council meeting occurring at 5 o'clock. So it wasn't like this is the first time that you saw this. There was previous discussion today.
Did we contact anybody else?
No.
Any further questions or comments?
I think it's fair to negotiate with them from the standpoint that we're going with them because they're local, that we're local. I mean, and I'm sure you'll have that conversation, Michael. I mean, but, I mean, there's not a lot of leverage there, but.
The work that's being performed, again, I don't think it's necessarily anything that's would require someone from another organization to perform, another consulting firm. I feel confident in the staff that Garden Associates has on board to be able to perform this more than adequately.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore? Yes. Van Zetten?
Yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Caligari?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item 7, that gets into reports from city staff, city manager, or anything.
Mayor and Council, just a quick reminder on two things. The 23rd of this week, the wastewater working group will meet here at City Hall just to discuss kind of the follow-up on joint cooperative efforts between the two entities. And so there's been a committee created, which is the mayor appointed. It's you, me, Chad, Joe Ryan will be there. Mike Vore won't be able to make it, but he'll also be serving on that. And then Tom Jimenez, Councilmember Jimenez, and
I thought there was one more.
Doug.
Doug. I think you
Councilmember
had-
Yates. He didn't speak up, yes.
Doug?
I knew the invites had been
Were
sent
you like
out.
the one that always said to the teacher, hey, weren't we supposed to have a quiz or something?
Yeah.
You're in it.
So that'll be this week. The other item I'll note for you is that
He's gonna have an assignment, dude.
the 27th, next Monday at 5:15, there's going to be a Complete Streets workshop here in the council chambers. It'll be a study session for you and for the public. And then there's also a more focused, more intensive workshop from 1 to 4 if you or anybody who's interested in the public would like to attend. So again, that would be, location is to be determined. I can't remember if it's here or if it's at the library.
I thought it was at the library.
Library, okay. It is confirmed.
What's that date again?
The 27th, next Monday.
That one's at 5:15. What about the one on the 23rd? Refresh my memory.
That would be at 5:15 as well?
5:15, yeah.
Sorry,
And was there any money spent on getting that Complete Streets together, or is that, no,
just staff time.
just staff?
I mean, this is related to Blue Zones, and we will spend money related to Blue Zones, but that particular item, they're supplying the presenter, the person who's going to handle the workshop.
I'm assuming anything Blue Zones related that we're going to spend money on comes back here first before we spend money on it?
Not every single penny, no.
And how many
And one
pennies do
example
you-
would be bike racks.
Like what?
A bike rack. That's going to be something that's going to be taken out of the maintenance fund of the city's different buildings.
How much money do you plan on spending on Blue Zones that?
I haven't been presented with a menu of choices, so to speak, with the item, but this particular one, for example, the bike racks is, in my opinion, something that we can provide, should provide. We would provide outside of Blue Zones being here. So,
On that note, the streetscape,
Complete Streets.
that's just the presenter coming and just, showing ideas, but that's not necessarily what we're gonna go with.
It is not.
no, I think the idea is
Okay.
to inform and educate the public, to get the council to buy into the concept.
Right.
I am not in
Just
favor of that
understanding
stuff.
what exactly it is.
Yeah, I think there's some
Well, it's gonna
misconceptions
be,
about what it does
You know,
include and what
bike
it
lanes
doesn't
and
include.
all that crap, and they come up with a bunch of other stuff. It's worthless.
That's all I have, Mayor.
That's how I feel about
City
it.
clerk,
I'm glad it
anything?
was on mic.
Okay, city attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. City council members, anything you would like to say?
I've said it.
He said it.
Joe, let's start
No,
with you.
nothing. Said it already.
Scotty?
No, thank you.
I'm done.
Really?
I think you ought to speak up a little louder, Tom.
For
I
the-
didn't hear what you said.
That's right.
Okay. Doug?
Nothing, sir.
Tom?
Yeah, is there a report on South 11th?
Oh, yeah, someone asked me about
Yes.
that.
The contractor is trying to work through, they were working, I think, from the south to the north on the various patches. And it's our expectation that try to get through as many patches as possible before the weather turns bad. The sections that we can't get patched up, we would leave and then come back and do those in the spring. So the idea here is that the road will be open during the winter, like we've talked about from the beginning of this project. So nothing has changed with that. We have done some extensive sewer work. We've done some extensive stormwater work as well with the project, which some of it was expected, but a lot of it was unanticipated. The water department also moved some of their lines, so that's done as well. So it's going. It's not necessarily proceeding as quickly as we'd hoped because of some of the issues we found, but we do expect to complete it, like we had said, during the spring or the summer of next year with the full overlay after the plant opens up and we're done.
I'm not concerned, but I'm curious, are the patches gonna be asphalt or gravel, like we were seeing?
The patches is concrete patches.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought you said some of them we couldn't get to?
Meaning that they won't even open up. They have
Okay,
to, yeah.
okay,
They
so
have to-
everything I see that's been open that's full of gravel now will have concrete.
Right.
Good job. Okay.
But whole drainage is done. Are they done?
Is Hall done?
Yes, hall is done. I mean, they have some intakes to build, but anything in the pavement, everything is done, so they should be able to open up the street.
We've got the water department manager here in the audience. Chad, do you have anything to add as far as the project on South 11th?
No, our work was completed ahead of the schedule that was asked for.
Okay, okay.
Great. Jay, we zipped it. Are we seal coating what we zipped, or what I see is what we're gonna leave, you know?
We're gonna seal coat it. I think they started with some complaints on some potholes. So basically, they went and zipped they started off doing spot repairs.
Yeah, it's nice and smooth again. I just didn't know if we were gonna be able to go farther with asphalt pea gravel, or if that just,
Pea gravel.
okay.
But
good.
just on a
Spots.
small spot seal basis.
Right, I
not-
mean, there
Yeah,
were
just-
sections.
Just the places.
I know that there were sections where on North 9th or one of the sections, the street supervisor told me was they started off doing spot repairs, but it was so frequent that they had to do half a block or something of that
Yeah,
nature. So.
right, okay. And I just wanted to say, I have voted, and I did vote to support the funding for the fire station, so I'm hoping everybody does go vote for something.
Jason, anything? Okay. I would mention that there's another Blue Zone designation coming up at the YMCA on Friday night this week, that they are designated as a work site, but also they've been involved with safe foods and recommended foods that are just generally good for you. There will be some demonstrations going on there as well, and so I would draw the public's attention to that and ask if they would at least look that direction and darken the doorstep. I think there's a lot to be learned there. So with that, do we have any motion for adjournment? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
What's up, Mayor? There you go.